welcome back. Welcome back. Paul, it's nice to see you. You won't get hit by a car in this room.
Hit the orange.
Is first on the agenda is review the meetings from back in September 24th. Is there a motion to accept the meetings from September 24th?
In the minutes, so moved.
Second, motion,
Well,
Cindy second. Okay, discussion? It was a short meeting. We looked at the schedule. Budget balances. That was it. Okay, no further discussion? All right, all in favor of accept approving the meeting minutes from September 24th, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I'll abstain.
And one
I
abstention.
don't believe I was there.
You were not. Okay. Number 2, budget balances and expenditures. Let's take a look at that first. Everybody has a copy of that? And we got the latest one from the 27th. Karina, thank you. Any specific line items people want to ask about?
Is this accurate to 12/27?
There's one on the table that was today dated, did they printed 12/30?
Yep, nope.
The one I have says 12/30.
Yeah, I printed some more today, just because I was a couple short, but yes, it's through, the expenditures are through 12/27. We still have a few more weeks of, for the 2024's books to be open. We sent a notice to department heads today that, we're trying to close the books. The last day that we'll accept invoices is January 13th.
All right, so these expenditures are accurate to the 27th of December.
Correct.
Can you put that in the minutes?
And what, January 13th is the last date for posting to these?
Correct. For payment on January 16th.
Forgot, and welcome, Becky. Nice to see you. Let's see, this chances, how are we doing on legal fund? We had expended all of that back in August, didn't we?
We were over expended at this point.
We should have another bill coming in too. We were in court 3 days ago.
Yes. Yes, we haven't, we've only received invoices through November for legal.
Let's see, cemetery. And I just happened to glance through my older ones today, and I thought cemetery had overextended their budget back in August or September. Is that right?
I think on certain line items they have, but not in.
Oh,
building.
All right. Nobody has anything else on the expenditures?
I'll go over some of the expenditures as we
That-
go through the
That was
budgets
my
as well.
question next.
Yeah,
Yes, if you would, please.
sure. Oh, I was thinking I'd do it when we get to each department, because there are some line items that obviously went over and some that are
Okay,
under.
Department level. Okay. Okay, let's review, start with the town clerk. You know what number that is?
2.
Up there. Yes, it is number 2.
All right, I'm going to present the town clerk's budget and the tax collector's budget. The town clerk had a death in the family, so she is not here this evening. So I'm going to help her out a little bit. All right, so town clerk, you will see that she did overexpend her wages this past year. That was primarily due to this past year in 2024. We had 4 elections. We had a presidential primary and a presidential general election. And she ended up spending more time in the preparation and following them than the elections than she had anticipated. Next year, we only have 1 election, so we don't anticipate her having as many hours as she did in 2024. So you'll see that we kept her, I guess I'll start off by saying I proposed to the selectmen a 4% COLA across the board for all employees. That is consistent with what the CBA agreement is for the police officers. So all town employees will be getting that 4% COLA. Social Security COLA came in at 3.3, 3.4, I remember. And so we just rounded up slightly to the 4%. So you'll see that across the board.
When you talk about all town employees, is that same for the library and everybody else? Or is that all town employees?
All town employees.
Well-
There are 4%. There are certain contracted employees, one in particular, not me, that will receive a 5%, but that was based on the contract. But all other employees, yes, unless they were promoted or got a raise bump increase last year due to certifications or trainings or whatnot, all employees are being proposed at the 4%.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So starting with the town clerk's budget, you'll see that her wages, we are increasing, even though she did overexpend that amount this year, we're just increasing it by the 4% due to the lack of elections this year. There's only 1, and it's town meeting, which is a relatively simple lift compared to a election. The deputy town clerk wages, remember, was the first year that we kind of had both of those positions filled, a tax collector position and a town clerk position with 2 different employees. We were able to open motor vehicles up 5 days a week by doing the part-time town clerk position. What we've seen over the last year is the tax collector position is not a true deputy town clerk. She's not necessarily doing the cemetery or the vital records or certain roles and responsibilities that a traditional town clerk would be. So we've moved the wages that the wages that she accumulates doing motor vehicles those 2 days a week, so we can be open 5 days a week, into the tax collector's budget. So all of the tax collector's wages, whether it's she's doing part-time motor, or she's doing the tax collection, will be budget. So you'll see we zeroed out that deputy town clerk line, but we put it into the tax collection line to account for when she's open for motor vehicle.
So when I look at the tax collector one, I don't see that as
It says PT MV agent, $10,000.
10,000. So the deputy tax collector, you zeroed that out and the tax collector's line too, and just put in a PTMV agent.
You got it. It's easier rather than trying to do a labor distribution to multiple departments. It just to have all of that person's wages come out of one budget. So that's that. Going down to travel, dues, travels, and conferences, she did up that slightly by, $100 or so to account for the increase in the town and city clerk's dues, and then also the miscellaneous travel mileage reimbursement. Going down to contracted services, this is another line item in which she overexpended to, she did not include the Chem Sites annual fee in the 2024 budget. That was an error that she omitted that line item for. So we are including that in 2025, and that is essentially the main reason why she went over in contracted services.
So I thought this Chem
Sites.
Campsites.
Yep.
I thought the cemetery trustees did not want that.
They did not want it, but it was approved in the town clerk's budget in 2024.
What is it?
It is a software program that maintains the cemetery plots and who's in them and which ones are available.
So you said it was approved in the budget in 2024?
It was approved in the budget. It was a separate warrant article, if I'm not mistaken, in 2024. Maybe it was 2023. Was it 2024? Yeah. It was a separate warrant article for $10,000
Yeah.
to purchase the software. And so we purchased the software, installed the software, but there's also an annual subscription fee.
$1,700.
$1,700 for our annual support subscription, correct?
We think that with a little bit of business we do over there, that we think that's viable.
I think having electronic
Well,
records is I think having electronic records is the future of, yeah.
Make sure so-and-so's buried where they're supposed to be.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
That, when they were doing a burial, there was a plot of 6 and it was A, B, C, D, E, F. However, then that was where it was recorded. And then it was measured out as A, B, C, D, E, F. And so the E it was almost a really bad mistake, which prompted this 3 years ago. And that's not a mistake you want to make when you're,
Well, no, but I just,
it omits the
I know we have
human error.
I know we have cemetery trustees, and I know that they were not standing behind this. It was, so
That is
agree.
true, but they're also not maintaining the records either.
Correct.
they're not doing that work.
They're not doing that work, correct?
But you
And
said-
like I said, it was an individual warrant article and town meeting voted to
That's what I mean.
approve it.
If it's a warrant article and the town voted it in, you almost have to spend the 1,700.
Oh, you do.
to
I,
use it.
yeah. Just statement.
Okay.
Moving down, our interware support obviously went up by a couple $100. That is ClerkWorks. That is the system that does all the motor vehicle registrations online. Continuing down, you'll see that she decreased her materials and supplies based on just the fact that we only have 1 election versus 4.
Can I just ask questions, Mike? I know last year you wanted to be recognized.
No, go
and
right ahead.
stuff.
I don't say anything unless it starts to get wound up, but yeah, you can ask questions when you like.
Okay. Marina, back on the contracted services.
Mhm.
I see there's $500 cell phone.
Correct,
That wasn't budgeted last year.
correct.
Why do we need a cell phone for the town clerk?
She's always had a cell phone since before my time here. She just never had a budgeted line item for it. So she does answer phone calls and I believe look at her emails from the phone on off hours.
Her phone? It just,
No, it's a town cell phone.
it just seems like a duplication when we have a regular phone within the town hall to have, right? And someone that's in the town hall all the time doing business, have a cell phone. No,
Sure, like I said, I do believe that's how she reads her emails. When she's not in the office, she's only in the office 3 days a week. So I do believe that's how and I think she gives that phone number out and receives calls from that phone number.
so this has been ongoing. She's had it and this is the annual charge for it. Is that what you're saying?
You got it.
But there wasn't anything budgeted last year?
It's never been budgeted as its own individual line item, but I think that we should account for it. So we added that in this year.
Okay, so it was budgeted where was it before? It was in,
It came out of contracted services, but I think it was just absorbed in the bottom line.
absolutely in the bottom line. Thank you.
And then, like I said, if you go down, you'll see that her budget decreased by the 14%, but it really is truly all revolves around the lack of, not the lack of,
Deputy town
PT
clerk.
move.
the PT move, right? Yeah.
Okay. Offsetting revenue.
And offsetting revenue, yeah, we did bump up her revenue this year for motor vehicles. We are hovering right now for motor vehicles at 468,000, so we bumped it up to the 450.
Has that been steadily increasing like a lot since the pandemic? I thought I heard.
It definitely is increasing. It's, you know, the way the mill rates, how we collect that revenue is all based on the price of vehicles. And when the price of vehicles go up, the revenue goes up. So we obviously have probably a slight increase year over year of how many people are actually registering their vehicles, but it's truly based on the cost of the vehicle is how we get our revenue. So.
Questions? Tax collector?
All right, tax collector. So again, last year in 2024, that was the first year that we had kind of a year-round part-time tax collector. At that time, we didn't know, I think at that time, we budgeted her for 20 hours a week, I believe, or 24 hours a week. She's found that she doesn't necessarily need that many hours to complete her job duties. So we reduced her hours per week to the 16 hours per week and by the 50 hours, assuming that she takes 2 weeks of vacation. So we reduce that. The deputy tax collector, we used to have a job sharing role position in which we would bring in a backup deputy tax collector during the busy seasons. Christine, our new tax collector, hasn't found that she's needed that. She's been able to handle the workload all by herself. So we eliminated that. And then again, we added that part-time motor vehicle agent, which accounts for the 8 hours a week that she's open on Tuesdays and Thursdays to do motor vehicles.
So will you have? How many part-time people will you have? You have a full-time town clerk,
Nope, she's part-time as well.
she's part-time,
Yep. We have a part-time tax collector and a part-time town clerk. No deputies for either.
no deputy, but you have this PT agent. Is that the same thing as the part-time town clerk?
It's essentially,
Same person?
it's the same person, correct? She's just not she's not a true deputy town clerk because she's not doing all of the responsibilities that a town clerk would.
She's only doing motor vehicles.
She's only doing motor vehicle because that was our major complaint is that motor vehicle was only open 3 days a week. We were able to figure out a way to get motor vehicles open 5 days a week, but she's truly only doing motor vehicles during those hours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And in a crunch, if you could help out the town clerk.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, they still share an office. They're together a few days a week. So vacations and whatnot. Dues, travel, conferences. You'll see she didn't spend nearly any of her budget this year. When the annual conferences happened this past year, she had a conflict in her schedule where she wasn't able to attend, but she would like to attend in 2025. So that's why we are keeping that budget flat or proposing to keep that
There was
budget
one I
flat.
remember she wanted to go to, but it was lean. It
It conflicted with the
days.
leaning and
Yeah.
deeding. Yeah, every town does leading and deeding at a different time. So the way Lincoln's falls is unfortunately was the same time as the annual conference. Contracted services, you'll see that increased slightly, and that's mainly due to the Avatar Tax Collect. So if you remember last year, we transferred from the BMSI program to the Avatar program. That is slightly more expensive on an annual basis, as you can see. But it is a superior program in comparison to what we were previously using. It also now allows us to we did the Avatar Collect program, which is the tax collection program. And then we also did Avatar Assessing, which we only have the shell right now. We're going to do the full transition when we do the reval in 26 at the end of 25, beginning of 26. So both programs can talk to each other. So we're not essentially double data inputting information from one software system to the next.
Will that lessen the amount of outside assessing help that you need? Or is that doing stuff that they would normally be doing?
I mean, I don't necessarily know if it will lessen the hours we use for the third party assessing. It's going to lessen the workload in-house between the reconciliation process on a monthly basis in-house with Becky and the tax collector.
Oh, Brent.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
I mean, that's over 100% increase. I mean, it seems like a lot, but I suppose, I mean, it seems like a lot, big increase for 1 year.
That will be our increase moving forward now under the Avatar program. I mean, that will be our
That
annual
will be the
fee.
annual fee.
Yeah, I mean, with probably some slight adjustments
sure.
based on CPI or whatnot,
you go.
but
And it's the BMSI program was antiquated.
it
Like
was
this,
essentially a
it's-
DOS-based program. It was extremely antiquated.
This
We would
brings us
after then, we would not
into the
only have
20th
to
century, yeah.
reconcile in that program, we would also have to reconcile on Excel spreadsheets, which would then be taken over to the finance department, and then she would have to do the data input on our end. Essentially, this is
Yeah.
streamlining processes in both the tax collection side of things, but also the finance department side of things.
And it brings us into the 20th century. This is, I mean,
Right.
the BMSI was so antiquated that this is just a,
And like I said, once we've fully transitioned over to the Avatar assessing software, both softwares will be in real time. Essentially, they talk to each other in real time.
Right.
There'll be no, is there an address change on this property? Is there assessment change on this property? It will be
it'll be there.
there, correct?
Mm.
Correct.
Helen used to have a hard time with BMSI, customer service and
It,
support.
and
back
BMSI was
when.
recently sold and they're sold
Right.
to G-Works, and we've had even more of a difficult time with that
Right.
company. So
Right.
it's definitely a
was overdue.
superior, it was
It was
overdue and a
overdue.
superior
Yeah.
program.
How long's Avatar been around?
I don't know, at least a decade and a half is my guess, right? Probably more than that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Probably all of BMSI's support is with Avatar.
Probably.
As a program.
We hope not, because we're,
Next year it'll be another company.
I know,
I'll have to
I know.
swap to them.
no, we won't be
I'll-
swapping. We won't be swapping.
But if you like the program and you use it to its full potential,
Yeah.
get in there and use it, it's very valuable. I mean, you do save a lot. You save a lot of time. And it
Absolutely.
gives you a lot of, the worst thing that happens, and if it happens with us, is we buy the software and then nobody learns it and it sits there. As long as you're not doing that, it's fine. You'll get your money back
She's
out
got a
of it.
copy for you.
Moving down, materials and supplies, we kept flat. This will jump up. She did put in, an order, very recently for both, envelopes and toner. So you'll see that jump up before the end of our budget cycle.
Elections. And lady, excuse me one second. Ladies, I'm sorry. Normally in the beginning, I might say that if you guys are here and you would go first. It slipped my mind. If you don't mind, I don't think we're going to be too much longer. All right, thank you. Elections?
After elections, they can jump in and we can then skip back to cemetery, because I don't think anyone from the cemetery is coming either. Elections, you'll see that most all line items went down, just again, purely based on last year, we had 4 elections. This year, we only have town meeting.
Questions? Hearing none. You wanna what? Oh, Carol, how are you? Yes, page 37. I heard from-
Number 22, yeah.
You wanna walk us through it?
First part is wages, and as Karina said, we are taking a 4% increase across the board for our employees as well.
Carol, I'm sorry, could you move the mic closer to
Oh,
you?
sure.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm a little hoarse too. So print materials, we went up a little bit because the cost of books are increased for us as well. Yeah, go ahead.
So Carol, are there the same amount of employees this year as last year?
Yes,
We didn't get any breakdowns on employees this year, so
right. It was, it's 2 full-time employees and 3 part-time
Two full-time,
employees.
3 part-time. Thank you.
Sure. So like I said, the print materials went up a little bit because just the cost of books have increased. So otherwise, that stays pretty much the same. Telephone, we went over on telephone this year, and I'm not exactly sure why. Because I don't usually see the telephone bills, I just code them. So I'm really not sure what the difference is between last year and this year. So I guess we could keep it the same, or increase.
Yeah, do you know who the carrier is?
Sure, it's BCN, and Mettel. Those are the 2 different ones we use. We have a regular landline, and then we have a fax line as well.
You just have one landline.
Say again?
Just have one landline,
One landline,
voice line,
correct,
and one fax.
correct.
It's small potatoes really, but you probably leverage something if you switch carriers. Just an idea.
Well, we usually just use what the town is using.
We'll get a megaphone.
Well, we are in the process so right now we actually have 3 different phone companies that we're using. This was something that had started prior to my time coming on board. So we just switched over Town Hall, which you'll see when we get to the executive budget. Town Hall this year, we are consolidating. We're going away from the 3 different companies and we're going to statewide communications for everything. But there is going to be a transitional period where we'll have to pay both companies, and we can't get rid of all lines because some lines are in contract until the end of the year. So when we get to executive, you'll see, because our phone bill also jumped up, but we're hoping that come 2025, you'll see a reduction across the board. You're going on statewide as well. They're going to do Town Hall first and the PD, because that's also the new company that's providing the new police department. And then we're going to do all the other departments afterwards.
Carol,
Go ahead.
what's the need for a cell phone over there?
We were told that we needed to have a cell phone for emergency purposes. In case I wasn't there at the library, that they would be able to reach me with a cell phone that's a library cell phone, not my personal cell phone.
What kind of emergency would you have at the library? I guess I just kind of, I'm just asking questions here.
Oh,
So
right,
you have
yeah.
the cell phone.
Say again?
You have this, you
I-
hold it,
I have the cell phone.
Right,
It's
it's-
in my
But
possession.
she has a personal one too.
but it's
And I
not,
have
yeah,
a
right.
personal
separate
one as
personal.
well. But it was suggested that we have
Do you
a
use it?
separate
Do
one.
you use
I
it a
do
lot?
I use it occasionally. Yes. It's not something I use on a regular basis, but it is something that I do use occasionally.
I'd be more inclined to get rid of the landlines. There are an issue with landlines coming into town that they're not very reliable. I don't know if the town is considered going all wireless and
We're doing
town.
voice over IP. That's our
Right.
next step. We're not going to be on the, we'll be internet phones.
Internet, yeah, but get rid of the landline,
Yeah.
designated landlines.
I've heard the wiring is shot.
Wiring
That's
shut,
right, okay.
and they have no intention of replacing it, right? Nobody's using it.
Not just our town, in no
Right.
towns. They're not doing it anywhere. Right, right. Yep.
Yep.
So,
But unfortunately, for some of our emergency services for the 911 downstairs dispatch, we have to come up with a new solution.
Well, I think that a landline is really beneficial too. So if your electricity goes out, you can still use your landline. So we do have, an alarm system as well.
yeah,
So,
no, I do too at the properties I manage. It's just we're trying to get rid of them. using
Sure.
Wireless towers for the alarm,
Mhm.
so it's just because they become unreliable and they're going. Because there's fewer customers, they're raising the price for.
Sure, sure. And then the other one on that line is the fire alarm.
But-
monitor-
Wait, wait.
Hold on.
Sorry,
The internet will go over fiber eventually, so that won't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
So if you're doing voice over IP, it will. It will resolve the issue.
resolve.
Is there
So-
fiber at the town hall and at the library
There is fiber here at Town Hall.
and at the library,
and at the library?
and it's expensive. So the fire alarm system hasn't changed as far as our yearly annual maintenance, and they check it all the time. If we get something that happens, they usually call me, and then I will come in and check on it. If that's the case, if it's just, the door didn't get locked properly.
Is everybody using Mango too in town, or, I mean, do we have a consolidated, would we benefit by having a consolidated
That's what we're
contract?
trying to do right now. So with the new PD, it's kind of flagged a lot of examples of where we have multiple vendors. So we're trying to transition to consolidate those. So we're hoping to go again with statewide for both telephones and fire alarm monitoring. So I think once we get the two major buildings kind of handled, then we'll do some of the smaller buildings like the library. The water treatment plant's gonna be a big one to transfer over because they have a lot of SCADA alarms. They're gonna be kind of quite an undertaking. So we're chipping away at it. Yes, absolutely.
It's a process.
Sure is. And we've never changed a phone system before. In a organization, you know how difficult that can be.
All right, employee training, travel went up a little bit because the cost of conferences that even in-state conferences are more expensive for me to attend or any of my staff to attend. So the dues have gone up. So that's why we increase that. Regular dues is just being part of the American Library Association or the Public Library Association, those membership dues as well, outside of the state membership dues. The conferences, I do that conference every other year. That's why we took it out this year, because we won't do it again until 2026. Not sure where it is this 2026, but I would like to attend if I can. But that's why that's reduced by that $2,100. Building maintenance, we kept it the same. So,
What are
That
you gonna do this year? I hope fix those steps.
excuse me,
Steps.
So what are you gonna do this year? Fix those steps that we fixed last year?
right, well, there was an error made in the mixing of the cement that was done, and that's why Jake, I have reached out to Jake and I have sent him pictures, and he is aware of the thing that happened, and he will come back in the spring and rectify it without costing us anything at his
Okay.
expense.
Should,
Excellent. No, that's good.
should.
Yeah.
That's good.
What was the total cost for the steps?
40,000. We went over by 10,000 because he had to replace the pillars. When he took the shingles off the pillars, the pillars fell apart. So they had to replace all the pillars. So that's what's the additional $10,000 that we had to pay.
Could I recommend that you get somebody to take a look at another fix besides just putting some concrete on the face of it so it'll fall off again? There's other applications that you can use.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
I mean,
sure.
I would just say, see you put it back on there and then in 3 years have it fall off again.
Right. Well, initially, the plan was to take all of that landing out and replace it so that it would all be the same, all be granite. But we were cut down on the budget, and so that's what we wound up doing, is keeping that landing. And then he had to replace the pillars, so that's what was the cost.
There are different processes you can use for that concrete that save that concrete.
Okay. Well, I would love for you to give us some input.
Well, maybe
Sure. Yeah. Mhm. He realizes it was a mistake, you know, and that he will rectify it. Speakers and programs, we went up by $75. Just the cost of summer reading program has increased, just the materials that we do and the programming that we do, you know, hiring performers and such like that. So it went up a little bit. We do have our Friends of the Library group that do help us significantly in helping pay for some of the things that aren't in this budget for sure.
So if Jake's not gonna charge you anything to do that, what are you gonna use the $3,000 for the building maintenance?
Well, it's floors, it's windows, it's
Cause I see you
carpeting.
didn't spend any of it this year.
It,
Or. Did you?
1893.
Building maintenance, $1,893.
I do have an outstanding invoice from carpeting.
Do you have something special that you're gonna do at the library for that 3,000?
No, those are just the regular things that we do. You know, building maintenance, grounds, anything that actually comes up, some things come up that we have to fix. Like I had to fix the fan in the bathroom. And that wasn't something that we anticipated, so we used that in building maintenance. So it's good to have a little
Yeah,
bit
makes
of
sense.
extra in there in case those things happen that we have to
Absolutely.
replace.
Yeah.
I don't just budget money at my house, I'll tell you that. You?
Yeah, but I pay for it in a different way.
Contracted services. We have our HVAC service, which didn't change. Our computer service contract that we have with Certified that the town has as well. That's the maintenance of our computers, and they do rotating in and out of some of our materials, some of our software. This year we had to put in a new Wi-Fi access point in the meeting room because the one that we had out front at the circulation desk wasn't enough to get the signal back there. And that meeting room gets used quite a bit, and having the Wi-Fi access point back there really made a big difference. in
Absolutely.
Zoom meetings or whatever the case might be.
Sure.
The alarm system, that's just a maintenance fee. Grounds is $500. That's if we have to put mulch in or something like that. Our Alexandria maintenance fee is our circulation desk, which is for our checking books in and out and stuff like that. And that's an annual fee that we have as a service contract as well. Building cleaning. Last year, Here for You gave us a 2-year contract, so it wasn't going to increase this upcoming year.
Good.
Pest control is $300. Last year, we had to have JP Pest come in and get rid of some wasps that were in the pillars that when they took them apart, they
Oh,
found that there
sure.
were wasp builds up in there, so we had to have them come in and do that. Canva is a graphics design. We design our posters and our flyers and any slides that we put on either Facebook or our website and stuff like that. And it's just a graphic design software. The website hosting, which this year we built a new website. So that is just the $240 just to host it. We don't host it in-house, it's hosted off-site. Zoom, we have a Zoom account, which we do use pretty much quite a bit, so that we can do programming at the library and be able to attend different Zoom meetings as well. And the fiber optic cable, there you go, right there. That's how much it costs a year to have fiber optic cable in the library. Electricity. we're pretty much right on schedule. We'll probably haven't, I think I just got another electric bill just today or yesterday, right? You gave it to me. Propane. We'll have another bill. We do have another bill, hasn't been paid yet, right? Yeah. Just today. Yeah. Mhm.
So there's one more bill coming in.
Yes.
And how much is that? Do you know?
400.
This looks like it's a. I mean, budget of 5,000. You spent 3,000, a little over 3,000. 3,044 right now, so you get about 3,400.
Mhm.
5,000 seems to be quite a bit more than what you're looking at.
Well, it depends on the heating season and the air conditioning season, you know,
Propane doesn't do anything with air conditioning.
well, the AC, we run AC. We have central AC in there too.
Yeah,
For
but
the summer.
propane doesn't get affected by that.
Okay.
Mine does.
You have propane AC?
Yes, absolutely. It's a heat pump. It does my heat
It's
and
all one-
AC and it's
it's all one
all run on
unit.
propane. Absolutely.
It's a heat pump,
Yes, sir.
an electric heat pump?
No, propane. Yep.
I don't believe I've ever heard of a propane. heat pump.
And the
I will-
outside AC unit cools the heat pump in the winter.
Say what?
Yes.
I don't think you know what you're talking about, but that's okay. I've been here for a lot of years.
Well,
Anyway,
we approved 5,000 last year for some reason. Meaning maybe there was more expended last year. It's not an increase, so.
well, no, I'm just.
Yep.
Saying that, we're appropriating more than what we're gonna spend this year
This year.
This year.
by a good percentage,
This year.
yes.
Who do we use for a propane company? Do you know, Karina?
White Mountain Propane.
They're the best price around.
Mhm. And I think the town has a contract with them that we're part of. Okay, materials and supplies, that didn't change. It's paper, it's toner, it's cleaning supplies for the janitors, those kinds of things. Cereals, that's magazine subscriptions, newspaper subscriptions, and then an online database, which we have consumer reports online that you're able to access. So that hasn't changed. Audio and visual, I'm slowly but surely getting rid of my my DVDs because they're just not being utilized anymore. I don't even buy new DVDs anymore because nobody's asking for them. So we're slowly but surely getting rid of them. Going to keep some of the classics, the children's collection. A gentleman came in today and said, "Do you take DVD collections, donations?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, I have a huge collection, but I don't have a DVD player." So
Last year,
So that's the library's collection, budget. And it went up by, what did it go up by? 2.26%.
2%.
I'm just curious about this, I'm not trying to take it away, but do people actually come in and read newspapers and magazines? Really?
Yes, they do. Mhm. If somebody's looking for a respite, they're on their afternoon walk and it's super hot or it's super cold, they'll come in and hang out and read the newspaper.
I don't know if this is the place to ask this question, but. For the cleaning of the building.
Mhm.
When I went through and looked at all of the cleaning for the buildings that we have. In the library, town hall, police, community building, tank rec, it's over $100,000. I mean, it's like $120,000. That's just for the cleaning.
Yeah.
That doesn't take into consideration the cleaning supplies.
Nope.
Mhm.
As a town. Looked at hiring a full-time person. I mean, at $120,000, it seems to be,
I'll do it.
We've discussed it. We don't believe with the new PD coming on board in early this year, within the next month or so, that one employee could do the new PD, the town hall, the library, the community building, and all the other buildings that we have that get the minimal cleaning. It would most likely take 2 employees. I would say an employee cost over $100,000 a year if you count health insurance benefits, retirement, and their annual wage. So I think it's actually more cost effective for us to contract it out than would it be to hire full-time employees. You got it. So yes, we have looked into it, but we still feel like at this rate, we're getting a better deal with the contracted service than we are with hiring 2 custodial employees.
But you've looked at it, you've actually priced it all out, what it costs.
Well, I know what it costs to have a full-time employee, and it hovers right around that $100,000 mark, depending on the wages. And so if we were to hire 2, that would double the amount of money that we're spending right now on
So you're
contracted
saying it's
services.
more than 40 hours a week to clean all
Mhm.
the buildings in town.
Correct.
And
And
you can never have one employee because you have to give them days off.
Exactly.
days off, vacations, sick time. And you also remember that a lot of these, they do it on off hours. They don't do it during normal business
Right.
hours. So
After
they have to
5.
do it when
Yeah.
the childcare center, they have to do it when the library is closed.
Town
So,
hall's closed,
um,
yeah.
there's only so many hours in a day and there's only so many hours in a week. So yes, we have looked into it because we've all thought this, maybe it's time to look down to explore that option. I still think we're getting a better deal with the contracted
So
service.
do you use more than one service to clean all the buildings?
Right now, we're using just one contractor. We did previously have 2 vendors or 2 contractors that we're working with. We've consolidated that this year to just be with one. Correct.
Mhm. And they do a
And they
fantastic
never
job.
take a day off.
So
They-
you're using, is that here for you? That's doing all.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, they're using us, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And they do a good job.
For me, it's more cost effective to have them than to hire somebody
Mhm.
because
Agreed.
whatever you're paying in a wage, you're paying 30% above that in payroll taxes, workman's comp.
One, especially if you're a municipal employee, it's the retirement that really kills. So, I mean, it doesn't kill you, but.
Kills the budget.
Well, is there any, probably isn't any estimate on cleaning the police building yet, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
$36,000.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Did you win any awards this year?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
Darn it.
This year,
Well,
not
yeah.
last year. This year I'm gonna work on
Yeah.
it.
We'll keep that in mind when we approve your
Yeah, you
budget.
do
No,
this.
just kidding. Just kidding. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of this riveting meeting. Cemetery is what, 8?
Page 8, or page 12, rather, number 8. Well, number 8, cemetery.
So obviously I did not put this budget together. That was done by the cemetery trustees. You can see that the bottom line is flat to last year. They did change some things around. They moved things up slightly. They moved some things down slightly to be able to keep it flat. But you will see that they bumped up their wages to account for what they're actually closer to spending a year. And that obviously varies year to year based on how many burials they have or kind of just the mother nature and how she cooperates and the kind of lawn maintenance and whatnot, our ground maintenance. So they did bump that up. But they did reduce some other figures to be able to keep that the grand total flat. And again, it's the budget, the cemetery trustees that submitted this budget.
So. The cemetery. They spent 13,955 and they're budgeting 14,000 this year for regular wages. But they've only spent $362 on their overtime and they're budgeting 4,100 for this year. And when I look at the well, if you,
Well, in total,
I
they've,
suppose you probably can't answer those, so.
well, in total in wages, they've spent 14,318.88. Oh, that was as of 12/13, so which is
So-
probably
right,
similar.
So they're
right.
recommending 18,000. And they spent 14.
That is true.
Maybe we could find out why, but I mean, I know it's not your budget, so I don't know how we get these questions answered. Do you ask them?
If you have questions, I can have no problem reaching out to them.
That's one question I would have. The backhoe for the burials under contracted services. I see. Burial wages.
Well, and I actually think now that I'm thinking a little bit, the burial wages OT is for our public works employees overtime when they have to come and do a burial. So if that can be done during their average 40-hour a week, then it can happen. But if not, then obviously that's
Shouldn't
where
that
it
come
is.
out of? Shouldn't that be charged to this account then? So there's at least a. I mean,
I do believe
It is.
it is.
but it still doesn't,
So
no matter how you add it up, it's still.
it's still not
$1,000,
4,100.
Yeah,
No, it's not close to 4,100.
no.
Or
Now
this
the-
past year hasn't been close to
Now,
4,100.
backhoe rental, I don't see. If they use, I'm assuming they probably use a town backhoe, so they didn't rent one and there's no charge for that, or
I don't believe that's the case. I don't know if they
so we don't know what.
use
answer
the
to that
town
one.
backhoe. I think we do we help them out when we
Oh, I know.
can to do our own
Yeah.
with them. So they don't need to rent it.
So, but they've got 5,000, or I'm sorry. 5,230 in for this year. When they didn't use, but I don't know. Contracted services, I see no expenditures for contracted services. Underneath what you gave us for the expenditure detail by account.
But they're way over in materials and supplies.
Materials and supplies, they were
Yes, correct.
8,000, right?
Yes. So I
87, not
imagine
37.
if you,
Well, they
right.
just should be reflective of what they actually are. So I'm saying if they're not going to use that, then that should be less and material supplies should be more, shouldn't it?
So what's their? Maybe you know this, if they can't get someone from the town, then they have to rent. a
Right,
backhoe,
right.
Which isn't cheap.
Correct.
Probably
No,
not.
well, but that's what I'm saying. It just, the money should be where it should be put where they
Right,
need.
so is there possibly a miscoding in there?
Potentially, yes, we can look into that.
You know how many deaths we had last year?
I don't off the top of my head.
Maybe we're down on deaths.
I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing. I don't know. I don't know if we were down or up, to be honest.
And the only other question I have, Karina, is that the pickup truck that's over there, is that, I know you can't answer that either, but I don't know why we need a pickup truck for the cemetery.
That was a decision that was before my time. I feel like they've had a pickup truck for a while.
No, it hasn't. It's only been there for a couple of years, but
Well, I've been here for longer than a couple of years,
Well,
so it's gonna be at least a little bit longer
yeah,
than
it
that.
just doesn't seem to be a necessary thing to have a pickup truck for a cemetery. It's not like people they have to ride on.
No,
What
but
do you
I'm
do
sure
with a
he
pickup truck
does
at Cemetery.
ground maintenance and right?
No, when you go there, you park your own vehicle, you get on the lawnmower or weed whacker, and that's all you do all day long.
Can I ask though, if you drive there in a Toyota Corolla, how are you gonna go fill a gas can
You go
without
to-
making your trunk smell?
you actually go
Or
over to
buying
the
lime
state,
or
state barn with a
fertilizer.
mower, like I did for years,
And fill it over there.
and you fill it over there. That's where it
Okay,
gets,
I
that's where
wouldn't
it
have
gets
thought of
filled.
that. That, fair enough.
That's where it gets, it's a short little drive.
Fair
right
enough.
over there. I'm just saying, it just seems like an unnecessary expense for a cemetery. To have, that's all. Yeah, I know, you don't want to move them around so often.
I just looked in 2023, we had 4 deaths registered in Lincoln. That doesn't mean that that's all that was buried in Lincoln,
Right.
but we did have 4 deaths registered.
I'm just saying, it's a,
Yeah, I think
We
that
have.
it, just comment, and I know you can't answer why,
know.
the why, and I've talked to one of the cemetery trustees and he said that they really didn't need it, but
But at some point, was a truck purchased?
no, the truck wasn't purchased. It was given. It was supposed to be, it was one of the ones that the Public Works Department gave up.
Mm.
And by attrition, it said, oh, let's put it at the cemetery.
well, they're not asking for a new one. It's getting, it
Right.
probably got our money's
It's-
worth at this point in time.
So we put it
Jen,
we
I
put it
am-
at the cemetery, but if you've got it there and you're using it, then you've got all the expenses that go along with it, is all I'm saying. You know, if you need it, have it, use it, appropriate what you need, but if you don't need it, then don't have it just sitting there. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. All right.
Well, we're talking about they've spent $100 on that truck this year. So I would think
Yeah.
we've gotten our money's worth
1,200
out of it.
bucks for the year budgeted.
Yeah,
People just want
I
to
mean-
keep throwing money and things, you know, it's nuts. Absolutely
It's,
nuts.
there's gotta be some insurance that's overnight. For that thing.
I don't
It's
know.
not on-
I don't know.
It's not on town,
Unless it doesn't leave the cemetery.
it's not on town insurance, is it? It's no
yes,
longer.
it's owned by the town. It is
So-
insured by the town.
Sure, but
Absolutely.
it's been gas over there.
It would
need
be
So the
brakes.
cost of that
Because
insurance is.
Part
over
of the
on town,
fleet,
so-
which
If
would
it's
be
just sitting
minimal.
and it needs
Yeah.
brakes,
Yeah.
and Nate has to stop doing what he's doing, or it goes to a garage, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just all of the things that happen that you need.
Well, if we weren't budgeting this and they were using their personal vehicle, then we would be paying for mileage.
But you don't use a person. I worked over there for years, and you
Uh,
drive your car.
I
from your
know,
house to the
you've done
cemetery and you
everything.
Hop on a
did
mower,
you-
use a weed whacker, that's
Did
it.
you never have to like go to Obashan to get a part or something or whatever? 'cause we would be-
I'll tell you what, not very often.
We would be paying
Not
mileage
very
for
often.
that.
You get in it's a testy thing, having people use their personal vehicles. for
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's issues there.
It's liability.
All you do is
Liability,
all you do is
right.
submit a
Liability
mileage
is the
sheet.
big one.
You just
Yeah,
submit,
but exactly, the liability is.
it just seems like you want to spend
If
money,
this
so.
vehicle was costing us a lot of money, if we were putting $4, $5, $6,000 in maintenance repairs every year, if they were coming in asking for a brand new vehicle, I think all your concerns would be extremely valid. But I think when we're talking about they're asking for $1,000.
But one concern is valid, there's 1,200 budget spending on. We don't need.
They probably don't need
Yeah,
Could you ask them,
about the vehicle.
please?
They could decrease.
right. Right.
So what is being
One more.
spent? You know, we don't know what's being spent.
And I would be hesitant to take away the $1,200 for maintenance of the vehicle, because what if it did need a $200, $300 part? What if it needed an alternator? You know, you never know.
That-
The fact that, well, they didn't spend it, take it away is just fuels departments to spend more money they don't need to.
No, but if they've never spent it. If
That's
it needs a transmission, it's gonna be a lot more than.
Right.
don't know
At
if
that
that's
point,
gonna
you have to look at their budget.
But isn't the first thing we need to know is what are they using it for and how often is
Oh, that's the question she has.
That cemetery has never had a vehicle since it was made. All of a sudden, the vehicle showed up and the thing sits there most of the time. I can tell you it does.
Let's have them tell us. Again, we've got,
Let's find out from them what they're using
Okay.
it for, why they need it.
there's $8,700 in there that's also unexplained. Maybe some of that is for the truck. We don't know.
All I'm saying is that if it's needed, fine. If it's not needed, don't have it.
Last year, they spent $437 out of that line item, just for reference.
Out of a
out of the 1,000, yeah, or the 1,200.
12 on.
I will ask them those questions.
Thank you.
I guess they're other, I mean, do they need it? If they need it, it's not a lot. If they don't.
No,
then it's-
that's my point. That's not,
Okay, after cemeteries, we are. We are at number 5, any other business? That may legally.
yes, I have one.
Committee.
Do you,
So which one would you like to talk about first?
The schedule.
Okay, everybody's open to just discuss the schedule? Okay. Go ahead.
Mine is simply that on the January 15th, I see on the new schedule that we have a meeting, with the Linwood ambulance and the special warrant article. We have never discussed special warrant articles with Woodstock, nor do I think we should. I think a special warrant article is special to the town of Lincoln and does not require any input from Woodstock. We don't discuss on any of the health agencies. We don't discuss any of those with Woodstock. This is not a intermunicipal agreement
Joint.
thing where we haven't, it's a, I think it should be a standalone discussion with town of Lincoln. I think the discussion should be had, but I think it should be with the town of Lincoln. I think that the ambulance should have their discussion with town of Woodstock, and they should have it with the town of Lincoln. Town of Lincoln's doing it as a special warrant article. So to me, I don't need Woodstock telling us where we should be with it.
But my
Can
question,
I-
will we be discussing as part of the health agency? Will we be discussing this at that time too, before we go to this meeting? So
It's not in the,
oh, if I,
it's always been in the past, so the ambulance service.
this is new this year.
Not now.
so the reasoning, the thought process behind separating them out from the health appropriations is because their ask has significantly increased this year. We would like to separate them out from the health agencies to create their own warrant article, at least this year, to get the consensus of town meeting as to whether they're in favor of supporting the Linwood ambulance service. The thought process behind having them attend the joint meeting was it's not so Woodstock can have input on Lincoln's appropriation. There are going to be a lot of questions. They plan to have a presentation to the budget committees. They would like the budget committees to understand why their ask has increased significantly. They know that there'll be a lot of questions from both communities. They thought rather than going to Woodstock, well, not they thought, it was a collective when we were discussing about it, that rather than them going to both budget committees, that it would be appropriate for them to do their presentation once and to have people ask questions in the collective forum, and then each independent committee could then vote on it as they see fit. There will be a more thorough presentation than you've ever seen in the past from them. You've never seen a budget that's been an itemized budget like you've received this evening. I think having more people in the room is just going to have people ask questions, get answers, and having them to be able to do it in one forum versus two separate forums.
I agree that probably one forum for the ease of for them is probably better, but I don't think to have one forum is better for Lincoln. I think Lincoln should have its own discussions with them, and I think Woodstock should have theirs. We don't, for the camp recreation, we don't do that. We do CIP items.
Yes, we do. We invite Woodstock. Woodstock comes to our CIP meetings. Woodstock joins in the joint board.
Woodstock
Yes,
comes
we
to our
do.
CIP meetings.
Cheryl Reardon
With-
was
with-
here during our CIP discussions to discuss the CANC
Not-
and the
And the community
and
center.
the community center, correct.
There's only there.
And the
for-
transfer station.
There was only one she was there for, but anyway. This is, look, you're right, this is a big ask. I mean, it's a
It
big
is.
ask for them. I think it's gonna be a lot of discussion.
I don't
And-
disagree.
And I think it's
Hmm.
probably better instead of listen to what you're saying tonight. If you have two towns and there's maybe people in the audience that this discussion about the cemetery, I mean, about the
Ambulance.
ambulance could go on forever, because you're gonna have more public input, hopefully. You know, and there's a lot of questions.
So you think it's just too many questions for the time?
I think it's not only too many questions, I think that Lincoln should, the ambulance is a independent business. It has nothing to do with the town. We don't have any representation on it as far as a board or anything like that. It is an independent business. And as such, I think they should come to Lincoln. And they're, not only that, they're separating out the amount I requested from Lincoln and amount request from Woodstock. So to me, Lincoln ought to ask their questions about, if you're gonna ask the question, how come you charge in Lincoln more than you charge in Woodstock? Next thing you know, you're gonna get into a match, and Woodstock's gonna be here. Good.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay, but I mean, you know, you're not gonna resolve anything. I think that,
Well,
you know, you're not gonna
Right,
resolve
right,
anything. I think
totally.
you're
Mm.
better off to resolve it.
Right.
One-on-one with them, rather than going to battle, if you will, with the
I don't
town of
think anyone,
Woodstock
I
here.
don't think anyone's going to battle
No.
with the other community. I think we're all sitting here, going to be watching one presentation and
Right.
being able to ask questions. I don't think it's a Woodstock versus Lincoln scenario.
No,
I think
You
it's,
don't, 400 something thousand?
no, I don't.
200, you don't think it's that?
I mean, and if you might think that, you might think
Right.
it's a Lincoln versus Woodstock scenario, but I don't.
any other opinions from the committee? Dennis?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice job, Dennis. Way to remember.
I watched the video of the BOS meeting, and they had a great presentation at that BOS meeting, and there were
That was a joint
Yeah,
BOS
joint
meeting.
meeting.
Yep.
Scott Rice was here. And they had a good presentation. Some questions came up. They're getting more information, I believe. But you guys had a great conversation between you and Jack and Roger and Scott. Was Scott the only one here? Was
No,
somebody else?
Scott and Cheryl and
And-
Gail
and
was
Gail.
here. They all
There's-
three of
there
them.
was
yeah.
some Good conversations
Mhm.
coming up, and I know that Lincoln's gonna pay more than Woodstock. and
Based on
that's-
usage.
It's in the numbers, so
Right.
there's nothing you can really say about it, so. I think a joint meeting will be very productive. It will be.
I think the joint meeting is the way to go and it's the best for the community. It'll be the best thing for the community. And you get questions answered on both sides. You don't have to, well, we'll contact Woodstock and find out what the answer to that question is, and then we'll get back to you. This way we're here. Woodstock has the knowledge that Lincoln does. Lincoln has the knowledge that Woodstock does. I don't think anybody wants to go in, well, maybe except for one person wants to go into battle. I think we want to be a community, a cohesive community and get along. The two towns and be one community. We have one ambulance service. I think having the joint presentation is definitely the way to go.
We're not community.
We are one
In
community.
the tax base. in terms
We're
of-
two towns. Two towns, one
And I'm
community.
not saying, but we don't commingle our tax revenues, for example, do we?
We're two towns, definitely.
And I'm not saying that that's a problem with the joint presentation, but let's call it what it is. And I don't have a problem. We're not gonna vote on it during that time.
No,
Right.
You know,
I agree.
I don't have.
I'm just saying, I think it's gonna be a
joint
long meeting.
presentation.
You know, and doing battle Tammy was, for lack of a better word, what I was using. I don't think there's any need to do battle. I think there's gonna be some serious questions asked. And I don't think.
As there should be.
I'll be really interested to hear the answers. I don't agree with, you know, what Dennis said. I watched that meeting with Lincoln and Woodstock both there, and I
It was a
mean,
great
there's a lot
meeting.
of questions. I think there's been a lot of work done between when it first was proposed and where it
Absolutely.
is now. And that's led to more questions too, you know, so I think it's gonna be a hard pill to swallow. Lincoln's got some hard financial pills this year. I mean, it's got some big money pills. You know, and it's I just think it's gonna make for a long meeting, and I think it'd be a lot tougher to do. with
Anybody else? One second. Anybody hasn't spoken on something? Yeah.
I probably agree with Paul. It's gonna be a long meeting. There's gonna be something real hard for Lincoln to chew, but we do use the service much more. But at the end of the day, at $400,000 is gonna look pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Pretty cheap.
Agreed.
So are we gonna debate it now? Cause I've got answers for all your
Yeah.
questions.
Okay. But that is in the background, why I think a number like this, wow.
Right.
Because that's what's the alternative.
And I
But
do
that's it.
believe during their presentation, they are planning to have representation from both communities on their board. They already have a Woodstock selectman. As far as I know, I'm being appointed to their board as well. Maybe you don't count me as one of the representatives for the town of Lincoln. But I
think
think,
you're
I
busy
think the
enough.
plan, I am busy, but I also have experience running an ambulance service and a fire service. So I think I bring I think I bring some value to the conversation.
Without a
Agreed.
doubt, but you're paid by Lincoln to do Lincoln's business, so, and that.
Well, if
and that's
Lincoln's
me
spending
first.
$400,000, it is Lincoln's
Yeah, I think
business.
that's correct. But if you get the Kank Rec and you get the solid waste, she works on that joint. I know it's a
That's-
department, but. Again, we're not here to debate the
Right.
value
Right.
of what that is. From a point of order, I don't know if this is true, but I think it's their meeting.
They're hosting.
Right.
They can
It's
put
Woodstock's
anything they
meeting.
want on.
What's their meeting?
It's Woodstock's
Sure.
meeting.
We're hosting-
Woodstock's turn.
Hosting
We
their
we
meeting.
go back,
Right.
we're only having it here because we have a bigger
Because of the
area,
size
but they're
of the
running
room.
the meeting.
It's their turn to host the joint meeting.
I thought it was, I thought it said it was in Lincoln.
It is in Lincoln.
Big venue, but they're hosting this year.
Yeah, it's their meeting.
So regardless of what, I don't think you could keep it off. It's gonna be discussed and it's probably a good place to discuss it.
Agreed.
We should discuss it separately after that, but I don't think all of us have all the information that we could have.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think we'll have a more valuable conversation after the fact, after the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? I'll just bring it up because the schedule changed. You notice that? The schedule for the year. Now, that's not the agenda. That's the schedule put out. And I got that request from Karina on the 13th or 16th. And when she replied back, I gave her bars and then replied back with this. And the idea sounded sound. I didn't see any big issue with it. I wasn't going to call a special meeting for it. And so there it is. So we put it out. It's just the same thing. And
It wasn't a date change, correct? Just
Well,
a,
there was one meeting canceled and something else was added in
Yeah.
February.
Yeah, and
oh, gotcha. Yeah,
the
yeah.
reason behind that is last year we ran into the issue where we had our public hearing before the deadline for petition warrant articles. So then we had to have
Right.
the second public hearing and we had to go through the noticing procedures. So I thought that it would behoove us to wait until we got to the deadline for petition warrant articles to hold our public hearing so we could address them all together.
And so put this out is one of the things I mentioned this, I'd like to have maybe a organizational meeting in December. Next year before we get to this week. Because I've said that a number of times that we have an organizational meeting. Everybody says, no, we'll wait until the budget come out. But there's a lot of last minute stuff that happens. And I mean, I know, I have to admit, I made a mistake or two, I think.
No, say it ain't
It's
so.
a joke.
Never admit it.
But all the stuff that came around of not having what you needed, and I don't want to do things by email in last minute. We should do it in a meeting. So if we can entertain, keep it, we don't have to decide now. We can have a meeting. We have a meeting in December so that the town comes with us, comes up with any changes. Maybe you have a little bit better idea of what your budget is at that time, give us an update. And so then when we come into January and we have the budgets, all the organizational stuff is done. We know what we're gonna do.
I thought that was done. The budget committee had a meeting.
Not in December.
In which you set up a tentative schedule.
Yeah, but I just based it off the previous year's
previous
dates
schedule.
and just moved it around. I'm the one that did that. I just threw in whatever.
Well,
did
right,
the
but we
previous
all
year.
agreed to it.
Yeah, they all, I mean, yeah, it was done in a meeting, just wasn't
Wasn't a
voted
vote.
on.
It wasn't a vote.
It was a tentative schedule.
Right,
But
and
if
so it comes up to that, and normally, I'll call a special meeting, we did it earlier on. But on this one, it's like, no, it's not that important. If there was something huge with it, we can change it here, today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Something's changed, so that's the only reason. That's why it happened, so we're fine. But if I would just like to request, keep that in our heads. for next December. We have a meeting like just before we get the budgets or the budget season starts. Somebody had their hand up?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Al's hand was up for second. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Karina.
No problems. See
The season begins
Tuesday.
Tuesday on the seventh.
Astronomical.
Oops. Turn off your mics.
Oh, yes, turn off your mics.
Hi, Jeremy.